Morning, it's January the 30th and it's been a pretty chilly night. It must be a couple of degrees below zero, although it said it was only going to get to 1 degree. But the ground is pretty frosty, so I'm not sure how much digging and weeding I'm going to be able to do. So the two polythene tunnels are quite frosty, but inside I can see that the ground hasn't frozen. So you can see the soil is drying out a bit and it has stayed warm enough not to freeze, and you can see further down here some of those lettuces are getting quite big, but the soil is frozen on the surface, but it should thaw out quite quickly. The sun is coming up. Underneath the enviromesh here, it's also frosty, so we know that this enviromesh is definitely not protecting the plants from frost. It may be very marginally warmer than outside, perhaps some tenths of a degree, but nothing significant. But the cabbages are growing despite. So I've just taken off the plastic from these two beds, and I can see on this side where it wasn't covered, it's been affected by the frost, and here it hasn't. So it's a bit difficult to tell whether these are bigger than outside the polythene. One problem is when you take the plastic off, it can make the plants quite muddy, and then I can see here where the plastic's been rubbing, it's damaged the plants, which isn't great, but possibly a bit more growth underneath the plastic. A little bit difficult to tell, which means it's potentially not really worth the effort, but maybe as it gets warmer it will be more noticeable. So that means I've been on this bit of land for just over a month. It's been quite a roller coaster of emotions and physical work, up and down, some really good moments. I'm feeling a bit demoralised at the moment, just because salads are not selling very well. Just checked the broad beans and a lot of them seem to have been eaten by possibly mice or rats or birds. Can't quite tell, but they've been pulled up and chewed. I think it's probably mice. So I'm going to try covering that with some enviromesh, see if that keeps them out, but I'm a bit sceptical, so I'll probably have to sow those again. But when the sun's shining like this, it's lovely to be out here, and everything is starting to put on more growth, so spring is definitely on the way, and I'm hopeful that I will be able to grow enough flowers and vegetables and herbs to sell. I guess it's quite hard when you're doing all this work and not knowing whether you're going to be able to sell anything or crops are going to get taken by pests. A lot of decisions which I don't know if I'm making the right decision or not. Anyway, I'm now working on block 6. I've just weeded the 4th bed in that block, so I'm going through and forking out the couch grass, or some people call it twitch, and then I will go over with the power harrow. It's still quite wet, especially at this end, but it's diggable. A lot of soil wouldn't be diggable at this time of year, but it's not very clayey at all, so it's mostly silt, organic matter, peaty, so it's pretty easy to dig. I am debating whether it's worth doing this weeding or whether I could just make the beds with the rotavator and the power harrow and leave them ready for sowing, but there's just enough couch grass in there still to make it worthwhile. If that comes up and starts growing through the seedlings that I sow, then it will make it much more work later and compromise the crops. So still just about worth it, but the raking over with the tractor that Colin did get a lot of it out, and I guess quite a lot has died since then, but there is still enough in there to make it worthwhile. So I'm doing that, getting those ready to sow. There's not much else to do on the rest of the plot. I've got a decision to make about the tarp, which is over here, whether to just leave that until later in the spring or to take it off now, make the beds and go from there, and then move the tarp to another bit of the site. I don't know if the couch grass will have been killed under there, so I guess that's an experiment to see if, when I make the beds, if they're weed free or not. And there's always going to be hoeing to do with annual seedlings, but the main issue at the moment is getting the perennial roots out, which will just keep growing back if I don't get rid of them, whereas the annual seedlings you can just hoe out on the surface when they come up. So that's where we are at the moment. Let's have a look at these broad beans now. So I've put these new hoops on, which I've just received from LBS, and I will compare them against the MDPE plastic tubing. So you can see there is a broad bean. That's okay, that one, but and there's another one which is doing well, but let's see if we can find some of the damaged ones. There we go. So that's been chewed off. There's bits of it there. There's another one chewed off. Little holes here that look like they were coming up, and then they got chomped off. These, no, you see, they look okay, and then you realise that they've been eaten. There's another one that's gone. So that's a bit depressing. I'm not quite sure what it is, but I think it's probably a rodent. The garlic seems to be doing well. It's looking healthy. It's come up through the straw. That was mesodrome. So that's good. I've nearly finished digging the 5th bed in this 6th block, so I've got a couple more meters to go, and then I'm gonna do the beds with the power harrow. Hi, it's the end of the day, January the 30th. I've just been using the power harrow to go over 6 beds, actually no, 4 beds. To be honest, it's quite heavy going. It's not that easy to manoeuvre, it's getting stuck. I guess the soil's a bit too wet, and the spaces for turning are not that big, so it's a bit of an effort. So at the moment it doesn't really feel worthwhile, so I may leave it until the soil warms up a bit, and I've got rid of this tarp. I've ripped a couple of holes in that, trying to turn it round. I mean, it does kind of do the job. It flattens the soil and turns it into a nice tilth, so that is good, but this may be a bit too wet for it at the moment. I've been doing a bit of digging this morning, weeding one of the beds, and now I'm just harvesting only 800 grams of salads, but I've come inside one of the low tunnels. It's a bit of a hassle to come in here, but it's also quite a lot of work to take the plastic off, so it's not ideal. Not sure how I would deal with that if I scale up these plastic covers. I probably would have to work out a way of being able to take them off, because crawling inside isn't great. But I'm just harvesting some mixed salads, 4 lots of 200 grams. This is the giant red mustard, which isn't doing too badly, a bit holy, but the newer leaves look okay. And here is the winter purslane, which is doing very well. Surprise, surprise, it's windy again. So I've just marked out where 3 compost bays are going to go. They're just over 1 metre square each one. I'll start with 3 and then try and extend them here. And I've left space for where the polytunnel would go, just from there up to there. For a wheelbarrow and a person to get in behind the polytunnel to add and take away from the compost heap. So the polytunnel sticks up there. It's a bit further than we were hoping, but that's probably the only place we can do it unless we make the polytunnel 1 metre or so narrower. And it's Wednesday the 31st of January, day 36 on the market garden at Harvest Barn Farm Shop. I'm finishing off now. It's been sleeting and sunny, there's blue sky now, so it's a good time to finish. But even when the sun comes out for 10-20 minutes, the surface of the soil starts to dry, which is great. And then I start thinking I want to go and start digging and weeding and taking advantage of the drier soil, but then it starts raining again, so there's still a lot of surface water in places, so the soil is still quite wet. So I've just been putting that cardboard down where the compost bays are going to be and getting the area for the polytunnel marked out, which is exciting. I've just picked another 4 bags of 200 grams of salad. It's still selling very slowly, which is disappointing, but hopefully once people start buying it and tasting it, then they'll come back. The main problem seems to be the bags are misting up, which means people can't see what's inside them and then they don't buy them. So just trying to work out how to deal with that. It's a bit ironic that given most of the challenges are normally out on the land, that the main problem at the moment with selling the salads is the bags, but hopefully we'll sort it out and work out what the problem is, and I need to contact some restaurants and pubs and see if they want to buy the salads, because there is enough now to sell. So I'm going to go in and have a cheese toastie in the cafe and a cup of coffee and a Kermit the Frog cake, which is very exciting. tomorrow I'm teaching. I was talking to a student last week whose dad was from Ghana, who grew plantains and bananas in Ghana and sold them to shops in England. Given that the student was using the internet to look up £800 jackets, I don't think he was that interested in farming, but nice to talk about his dad who used to be a farmer in Ghana. Quite a lot of differences between that type of farming and this type of farming, but food is definitely a commonality between humans, so it's important that we all pay attention to where our food's coming from and listen to the stories of the people that are trying to grow the food that we eat. Anyway, until next time, I'm going to be at the Flowers from the Farm conference in Birmingham on Monday, so I'll be here at the end of next week. Bye! This is very exciting. I'm sorting through all the clips and plates and screws for the new polytunnel. Hello, it's the 16th of February, day 39, week 14 on the farm. There's not much to show. Things are growing pretty slowly still. It's quite cold. Last night there was a frost, probably -1, -2 degrees. It's just warming up a little bit now, but it is sunny and there isn't much wind, which is great because it's very often windy and rainy here, but I'm sure that will change when the spring arrives. I've harvested another 4 bags of salad for the shop. There's not a huge amount to do on the beds. The polytunnel bits have arrived, so over the next few weeks I will be putting up the polytunnel with the help of friends, also making some compost bays and starting to sow some seeds of flowers and vegetables, although it's taking a bit of a while to source the seeds that are organic or untreated, which I need to do because we're on organic certified land. There's a couple of other things I wanted to show. I've recently been to the Flowers from the Farm conference in Birmingham, which was a great gathering of flower growers who are growing British flowers and florists who use British flowers. There were some talks about business ideas to get your business more successful, thinking about your brand and your vision. There was a floral arrangement demonstration and then some workshops about different things. I've also been to the Land Workers Alliance political training in Norwich, which was run by Jyoti Fernandez, and we were talking about how agriculture might change after Brexit and what people can do to try and steer our agricultural policy towards a more regenerative agriculture that employs more people, provides better food. So hopefully I'll be trying to lobby my MP. There was a screening last night in Peterborough of In Our Hands, a really inspiring film produced by the Land Workers Alliance. And I also wanted to show a bit of footage from France, where I've had the privilege over most of my life to look after a small bit of land that has a couple of acres. So a big walnut tree died there over the summer last year. So last autumn I was there cutting it down and then burning most of the brash and cutting up the logs so that they could either be used for firewood or hopefully for furniture if the wood is good enough.
C'était le coup de trop. Ah ouais.
Just burning some of the brash from the walnut tree that we cut down a few days ago. There's a lot of wood and it really annoys me that I haven't got a better way of making use of all that heat. So I'd like to bring some kind of biochar making device down which could heat water or at least make charcoal biochar for cultivation. Otherwise it's just a lot of energy going to waste, and it's also a shame there's not more people here to enjoy the fire. Another good reason for burning the brash is that it's covering a lot of the field, and this field usually gets used for hay in about mid-May, early June it gets cut. So that's quite a big area that, well, maybe half a bale's worth of hay that wouldn't be cut if we leave all that wood, and it will only rot into the ground and then go to waste anyway. So I am trying to save some of it for firewood, and the bigger logs I can't take up now anyway because it's too heavy and there's a big steep slope above us. But it's an amazing fire, it's lovely. It's going to get dark, so I'll have to continue tomorrow. So I'm taking a little break from the market garden at Peterborough, and I'm out in France in the Dordogne for a week, and I've had a very strong connection to this bit of land since I was a baby, when I used to get washed in a bucket. And my grandparents bought a very old cottage with no water and no electricity about 60 years ago, and I've come here every year since I was a baby, and now I do a lot of looking after the land here with my brother and my dad. But it's a very fertile area with lots of small fields, grazing cows, few sheep, lots of maize, used to have lots of tobacco, not much grapes, a lot of timber, oak, pine, and a lot of the fields now are not really used that much apart from for hay, or older farmers just keeping a few animals for themselves. Anyway, we try and look after the land here as best we can. We've got the walnut tree burning in the background. We'll try and keep as much as possible for timber and for the wood burner. It's a bit of a shame that we've had to burn so much of it. All that heat and energy going to waste is a bit of a shame. Just been banging some posts in to put some fence round the walnut trees that I planted a couple of years ago, which is pretty hard work when you're throwing a 14-pound sledgehammer above your head. I often think when people pay quite a lot of money to go to the gym and work out, that you could have a few days on the land putting in fence posts and chopping wood, and you'd probably just be just as fit, wouldn't have to pay any money, and you'd be doing something useful. I guess a lot of people don't like that kind of physical work, or they'd rather be in a gym watching TV, listening to music. I couldn't think of anything nicer than being outside in beautiful countryside, looking after the land, watching the seasons change, watching the light change during the day. I guess I better put some more wood on the fire. So yeah, I'll show you some of the vegetable beds which I plant in the spring, and then if I'm back in the autumn, then I might harvest them. It was here when I was living for about a few years ago, that I first found out about Jean-Martin Fortier and then Curtis Stone and a few of the other market gardeners in America and Canada, which changed the way that I think about farming and gave me the inspiration to believe that it would be possible to make a living out of market gardening. I've still yet to prove that, but I'm reading Curtis Stone's book again, The Urban Farmer, and again that's reignited my enthusiasm. Not that my enthusiasm had died, but I guess I'm always slightly doubtful about whether I can grow enough and sell enough to make a living, but we'll see. When I go back to Peterborough next week, hopefully there won't be too many weeds, hopefully no animals will have got in, and then I can carry on, start thinking about what I'm going to grow next year and contact restaurants and florists about what I can sell. And that's really exciting to think that I might have produce that I can sell and make a living from, because that is my dream, I guess, to be making money from doing what I love, which is growing vegetables and flowers. And I've got lots of other ideas in my head, but I'm trying to be disciplined and stick to vegetables and flowers at the moment. Even just those two things is possibly going to be too much. Maybe I should just focus on one, but we'll see. At one point I was thinking about walnuts and goats. That's when I was living out here, but for various reasons that's not on the agenda at the moment, but it might be in the future. So I'll say goodbye for now. I'm going to do a little bit of digging, and that will almost be the end of block 6. You can see this is the end of block 6, and Colin has been raking over the rest of the field. It all looks very nicely raked over, and I will soon start expanding into there to prepare some more beds.